Bukas na lang. Impulsive Filipinos. Now, I wrote many an article about life in the Philippines and about understanding Filipino culture and mindset, and I can see a positive side to most things. Wonderful, kind-hearted people who have a lot to teach us hard-hearted foreigners, as I'm sure most involved in Australian-Filipino relationships learn to realise. But this is one area where I must admit that I find myself struggling to understand, and that is why Filipinos tend to act with impulsiveness with little to no thought of long-term ramifications and sometimes tragic results that hurt them more than anybody else. Bukas na lang, it means leave it for tomorrow. Let's not think about it today. Well, again, I love this place and I love the Filipino people here. I really do. This is my home, but goodness, I find this so difficult. What I'm talking about is Filipinos making decisions that suit right now and to hell with the consequences. Now, sometimes this is tied up with pride, hurt feelings, etc. See the previous article on onion skin and how easy it is for Filipinos to get their feelings hurt and how this can lead to careless decisions. But it's not just that. It applies to so many things. There's a lack of forward planning and decisions are made without considering consequences in the short and long term. Now, impulsive behaviour, Filipinos and Australians. Look, we can all be impulsive. Our emotions and our hormones can make us do stupid things which we later regret. Now, those Australian men have got themselves involved with a pretty girl who's just plain wrong for them because of her attractiveness, made our brains switch off. And I'm sure that they, I'm saying here we, because yes, I've done it too. We can relate to the folly of impulsiveness. Fear can be a motivator too. In other words, fear of losing what appears to be a good deal. If we're angry, we can say things we normally wouldn't say, or we can do things we normally wouldn't do. But most of the time we try not to do this, and we try to consider the medium and long terms. Filipinos, though, I suppose maybe it's emotion. Fear, pride, love, desire, anger, embarrassment, etc., which motivates a lot of short-term decisions. There just seems to be less decisiveness in trying to avoid rash decisions than you will see in your average Aussie. Emotions tend to rule the day and very little is done to fight this. Little in the way of internal struggle or even useful advice beyond the cliched mutterings of he or she is not thinking of his or her future. You are not thinking of your future. Has everyone heard this one? This is what they say when a teenage girl drops out of college because she's pregnant to her boyfriend. The situation's caused not only by sexual attraction but by lack of planning, family planning. He didn't bring the condoms, she never insisted on them. But whether it's that or the kid simply not taking studies seriously or tossing in a job opportunity because it meant they would miss the family and friends, that's the common response. Everyone says they were not thinking of their future, but this often lacks weight because the person who says it rarely thinks of their own future either. Makes a little credibility sometimes. Before I came here permanently and when I had just been a frequent visitor, I still thought mostly as an Aussie. I mean, how else could I? I grew up in Australia. And in Australia I was always acutely aware of the wolf at the door. I was very aware that the world was a scary place outside the door and that it would eat you alive without you having security and stability. House, money in the bank, safety from the elements and from bad guys, etc. Yet Australia has safety nets that the Philippines doesn't have. You can't get the dole or be placed in a nice housing commission house if you find yourself on the street with no money. Here, no money and no house means you go hungry and you may sleep in the rain. Now, is that enough to motivate the average person, especially those with family to support, to work hard and to hang on to a job? Not necessarily. I can remember a job I had years ago in Sydney. Now, I had a wife and baby at home at the time. I was in my 20s, and this was in the late 80s, to give you an idea of how ancient I am. And no, I didn't have a mullet hairstyle. I was just a whole lot slimmer. Now, I had a manager at work insult me, seriously insult me. It was out of turn. He did it in front of other people as well. And I sat there and I took it. Now, I would have liked to have got up and told him to stick the job where the sun didn't shine, but no, I sat there in silence. Because if I had done so, if I had lashed out the way that a 20-year-old young man would normally like to do, if I had have done that, I would have let my family down and our future plans to move up to Queensland, when we had enough money for a house deposit. Now, it would have put that whole thing off for maybe years, and that would never have been okay. Now here, let's think of some occasions of Filipinos not thinking of their future. Here are some that I came up with. Now, I had a driver, his wife and 2 kids, try to sideswipe a motorbike in our car. The motorbike had a child passenger. Because the motorbike driver had given him the dirty finger. Said to me, "But he gave me the dirty finger, sir." I think we know what that means. Now, I shouted at him and told him never do such a thing again. It was a really stupid thing to do. Later had his wife text message us with his resignation because his feelings were hurt. So he went back to driving his tricycle for a fraction of the money he was earning driving with us. Now, the same driver, it seems, later on we heard had a few arguments with a subdivision guard. He went home, he got his pistol, went back and pointed it at the guard's head. Now, fortunately, his late father was in the NBI, which is the National Bureau of Investigation, like the FBI, I suppose. So his old mates collected his home armoury. He had 2 guns, apparently. And no charges were laid, or he would have been in jail right now, all over hurt feelings. We had an office security guard once. He learned that someone is squatting in his house in the province. He gets on the bus, heads down there, gets a gun, and fully intends shooting the squatters. Now, I'm not sure why he didn't succeed, but he nearly did. Also a family man, and he would have dumped his family because his anger had won the day. Well, yeah, all he did was lost his job with us. Domestic helper with 6 kids, worked for us. Useless husband, didn't work, had mistresses, lived in poverty, and she resembled a broomstick. She was so skinny, so malnourished. Now, worked with us, had a good pay, had plans for building a proper house. Now, her husband tells her to come and visit. She actually, I'm not kidding here, she actually faked having a stroke, as in, can't move this arm, etc. Took her off to the doctor. The doctor identified it as being fake. Said, "Squeeze this hand," and said, "Oh, now squeeze with your other hand." And she lifted up the supposedly dead arm and squeezed, and then went, "Oops," and dropped her hand again. So it was obvious she was bunging it on, obviously. And she did all this because she loved him and she missed him. And, well, of course, we fired her over doing such a stupid thing. And she lost what would have been good long-term employment and a good future for her kids. Threw it all away because of emotion. Now, basically, we've had to learn how to deal with staff very carefully, and at the same time to expect to see good employees sometimes throw everything away if they felt embarrassed or got their feelings hurt. Hang the consequences. Forget about taking it on the chin, because life is just like that. Forget what old Malcolm Fraser said about life was not meant to be easy. We all know it's true. Now, you know, we already put up with staff needing to take days off because it's their birthday or their child's birthday, or someone asked them to be a bridesmaid at a wedding which had to take place on a weekday, of course. You know, we've had staff telling us they wanted to visit their mum for her birthday in the province. You know, text messaging us at 10 o'clock the evening before because they had a spur of the moment idea, or they just left it to the last minute before asking us. I mean, I sit here and work when I have a fever, when I have bad headaches. I sit here and work. Or when my back is giving me merry hell, because I have to. I know if I don't do what's required, well then my business will suffer, my clients will go elsewhere, and who could blame them? But that's just reality. Yes, I'm getting a little off track here onto work ethic issues, but it's all part of it. I really do wonder why so many Filipinos take the path of least resistance. There was a wolf at the door in Australia, but there's a whole pack of Filipino wolves here, and they all have rabies. Let your emotions get the better of you in the Philippines, and you lose out badly. And no, sadly, I don't have any answers to this one. But if you do intend to have dealings with Filipinos, you can expect to come across this difficult phenomena. And I wish you luck. Thank you. This video was brought to you by Down Under Visa, who specialise in visas for Australian Filipina couples. Please visit our website and complete a free visa assessment form. And please watch some of our other videos. Thank you.